And welcome everybody to another glorious episode of the Put on Waivers podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, podcasting off the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day out here in Southern California. All the Pac-12 teams are rolling through the tournament. Everybody's happy out here. They got I've never seen more Oregon State. Well, not Oregon, but Oregon State, SC, UCLA. Everybody's going crazy out here. But, also they're going crazy for those Padres because they think the Padres are going to be really good as well. But we're here to talk Twins, and we're going to talk Twins with Nash Walker of Locked On Twins podcast. Nash, how you doing today?
I'm good, Dwayne. Thanks for having me. I love your background. Rodney Klein Carew is my dad's favorite player of all time. I love it. Yeah, thanks for having me on the Pac-12. Just unbelievable, this tournament. March Madness never fails. It's been amazing to watch.
It has been. As a UCLA fan, that game won't give me a heart attack, but it was fun. It was fun.
Great game.
A great game, no question about it. I had to tweet at Bama to tell them to stick to football, but that's fine. So you cover the Twins, left and right, up and down. Where was that moment where you became a Twins fan? If you could talk about that a little bit, and then who's your, you got any favorite Kirby Puckett moments? So what's going on with the Twinkies?
Yeah, so I grew up here in Minneapolis. I'm from a suburb right outside of the city. I'm in Wayzata, so lifelong Twins fan. I was lucky enough, my dad would bring me to the bigger games, which was really fun, and I think kind of solidified my fandom. So we were at game 163 in 2009, which was great. But, over the years, and we'll talk about it a little bit, there hasn't been a lot of playoff success for the Twins as of late. Since 2002 was their last playoff win. So I was very young. So I don't even, I can't necessarily even know what it feels like to win a playoff game. But we're hoping they do so this year. And I'm just really excited to get this year going on Thursday. I can't wait. Also, I'm sorry, Dwayne. I was going to say my favorite Twins, Mauer, Morneau, those guys, the M's, but for sure Carew. Rod was the best, I know, and my dad has told me stories about him and Tony Oliva and Harmon and all those guys. Storied past for the Twins for sure. A special history of guys that we certainly hold still to a very high light.
And I know you spoke about your father in baseball as that sport where you just hand it down from generation to generation. And I think they were truly the last baseball team to have a distinct home field advantage. It really was for sure terrifying to go in the dome and play them. It still boggles my mind that the Vikings play inside and they play outside. But hey, that's neither here nor there. It's always a weird thing for me.
We love the dome, but it ran its course, Dwayne.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was time. It was so, but you could feel it. You feel it's so loud. Even when you watch it on TV, you felt like it was so loud in that building. So as far as we talked about you going back to Minnesota, and we always talk about homegrown players, homegrown talent, probably more so in baseball than other sports. For me, I'm a San Francisco Giant fan. I always give a longer leash to my homegrown talent, right? So are you worried about Max? Are you worried about Kepler? You don't want to go too alarmist because it's training camp, but what are your thoughts about him? And can he do a little Rod Carew and slap that ball the other way?
Yeah, I think you're right, Dwayne, with the homegrown guys. You do have that longer leash, but it's that tough love. And that's kind of been the case with Kepler and Sano and Buxton and Polanco and all these guys who came up through the system. You love these guys because you've seen them play since they were very young. But yeah, you mentioned with Kepler going the other way, he's got the lowest batting average of balls in play in baseball. I don't know if it's the last 3 years, 2 years, but in the biggest, large sample in the last couple of years, just has trouble hitting for average. We saw in 2019 when he can lift the ball in the air, how much power he has, was just a catalyst for that lineup. But he's a special defender in right. Judge and Betts are the only two that really rank above him in most defensive categories in right field. So he's special out there in right. And then at the plate, he is limited by that. He hits a lot of ground balls to the right side. I tweeted out today, I was like, he's done that so many times this spring. But traditionally, Max has struggled in the spring. The 1 year, of course, that he didn't was 2019 and kind of carried that over into the regular season. But this is a prove it year for him because they got prospects coming up, Alex Kirilloff and Trevor Larnach, who both play corner outfield spots. Brent Rooker's knocking at the door. He didn't make the roster for opening day, but he's ready to go. They got depth there, and it's a prove it year for him. Even though he is on an extension, people were talking about trading him this offseason just because there are so many high upside left-handed bats coming up. But this is a prove it year for him and for a lot of guys. But I'm not too alarmed by the spring. He could go out there on Thursday and hit 2 homers and we're going to feel okay about it. But he is limited as a player. And I think it would be nice for him. And maybe it will regress back to that mean of the batting average of balls in play where he's just able to hit 250 to 260 rather than 230, 240. But he does get on base a good amount. So that's what matters. But it would be nice to see him get a couple more hits up the middle or to the left center field.
Yeah. Are you worried about listen, Nelson? I love watching him hit. I love watching Nelson Cruz hit. I absolutely incredible. But are you worried about at some point, the age? He's batting fourth, batting third, whatever. Are you worried about that being an issue with him, or just he could be one of those old school guys who just hit till they. Julio Franco could still hit a 99-mile-an-hour fastball. So, what are your thoughts about Nelson Cruz being such an integral part of that offense?
Yeah, I mean, for Nelly, I had a couple of guys when I was growing up who I really just loved to watch play and help me fall in love with baseball. And Nelly Cruz is one of them. My dad would bring me to Target Field and we'd sit in the left field bleachers just so we could go watch him play when he played for the Rangers. Loved Jose Bautista, Curtis Granderson. But Nelly was chief among that group, I would say. So when he signed with the Twins, that was just such a special thing for me as a fan. Like I get the chills talking about it because I just loved him. But to see what he's done, Dwayne, for not only the Twins, like you see the numbers, you know how special his bat is, but in the community. And I said this the other day, I think he's in large part been the face of Minnesota sports, I would say, for the last 2 years. Yeah. You got a lot, you got guys in town. Kirill Kaprizov for the Wild now is pretty special, and people are excited about him. Justin Jefferson for the Vikes. So you have other guys that have come up and come in and been really special, but no one like Nelly in the last handful of years to do what he's done, and then just to be the guy that he is off the field. It was certainly a priority for a lot of fans to say, hey, get this done this offseason. Like, get it done immediately. He wants 2 years. Lock him up. I think it was smart for the Twins to get him on a 1-year deal just because, like you mentioned, if he goes downhill in the first half, you can start to phase him out, maybe just play him against lefties. But we just love him. I mean, he is Mr. Minnesota Twin right now. And he's just been so special to watch. And I don't know if we expect him to regress to like being not a productive hitter, but I think there's expectation that he will. I mean, of course, at some time he's going to be 41 this summer. At some point, he's not going to be who he is, and I think we've enjoyed what he's been so much that we know that day's coming. I know that day's coming. I think I speak for the fan base a little bit in that way where we expect that day to come. But he's just been so special.
Yeah, and then just him, being that DH, they gave a little taste of it last year. Like them going back to the pitcher hitting in the National League. And I've been a National League fan my whole life. Mm-hmm. Like those two, as big baseball fans like you and I are, it is going to be, they're headed for a work stoppage. I think because if they can't even agree on something that everybody loves, pitchers really don't want to hit.
Right.
Older players like Nelson Cruz want to continue to hit, and they can add a lot of value to a team. It's just, I don't want to talk about that right now because that's a whole other podcast right there. Like, that's a whole other podcast. But it just saddens me because I just know that like some of the best guys like Edgar Martinez, like so many great DH people who couldn't play in the field anymore but still could hit. Mm-hmm. It was really, really nice to see that Cruz still do what he does. Kirilloff, is that how you say his name? Like, yes. what is the deal with him? Like, what can baseball fans expect from him in the corner outfield?
Yeah, left-handed pure swinger. Some Twins folks have said that he's the best left-handed bat in the system since Joe Mauer. And I think his style, I mean, that's obviously high praise, but I think his style is very similar to Joe. He's a line, gap to gap, line drive hitter, probably way less patient than Joe in certain areas, but he's going to hit for a high average. On base should be up there. He's not going to walk a ton. The power is what's going to separate him from the left side. Is going to be, is he a 20 to 25 home run guy, or is he a 30 to 35 home run guy? I think that's going to be the difference for him, is whether he's an all-star or just a solid regular. But makeup is super strong, very calm, cool, collected, gets called up for a playoff game last year, makes his MLB debut in game 2 of the postseason and ripped a line drive to right, one of like the 2 hits that the Twins had all series. But yeah, he's got a special swing. He's a guy who I think they see as being their left fielder of the future. I think he's maybe his long-term position is first base, but big, left-handed, gap to gap, high average, and if he walks a little bit more, he can get in that 360, 370 on base, and then we'll see about the power projection, but he's just mashed through the minors. There was a stat I had. The minor league total bases leaders in 2018, it was Alex Kirilloff. In 2019, it was Luis Robert. And it's like, it shows the special talent that's in the Central. But he just mashed in 2018. Had an injury in 2019 to his wrist, but in the playoffs, I think he homered in 5 straight games. He's got big talent, global top 20, 25 prospect, I would say. And yeah, we're excited about him in the middle of that lineup. I think he'll split up Cruz and Donaldson this year as a left-handed bat. And especially like you mentioned, if Kepler's struggling, they need something from the left side. And I think Kirilloff's going to provide that. I think you're muted, Dwayne.
Buxton and Simmons strong up the middle.
Yep.
Those guys, he can go get it, and it's hard to hit the ball by Simmons. Are they going to give you enough offense here at the bottom of the lineup? I mean, obviously, it's bottom. It's 8-9. You want to get something out of it. You don't want to get automatic outs.
Right.
What are you feeling about those two?
Yeah, Buxton, his power in the last 2 years has been so fun to watch. He's slugging over 500 the last 2 years combined. That on base percentage, I think it was 267 last year, and I want to say it was the largest on base percentage to slugging percentage difference in like baseball history. We saw so many crazy things in that 60-game season. But big pull power now for Buck, and he's put on 20 pounds of muscle. He looks really good. For him, it's just health. Like, the value that he provides in center field is so massive. You mentioned his defense up the middle is just so special that I've always said, like, if he can give you league average production at the plate, that's a really good player, considering how good he is in center and on the base pass. But in the last 2 years, he's been solidly above league average in terms of OPS. And if he's going to hit 35 doubles and 25 homers and have that defense in center, that's an MVP candidate, as he was in 2017 without that power. So, I think we're excited about Buxton. I'm certainly excited about Buxton. He's my pick for Twins MVP this year. If he can stay healthy, that's the biggest thing for him. And Drelton, I don't know if he's ever going to be able to. He's 31. He hasn't developed that pull power, but he's another guy who you infuse some contact in the lineup. I think one of the criticisms of the Twins in the last few years of the offense is they don't have enough guys who make contact. Sano and Cruz has been so good, but you have other guys who have trouble making contact consistently, Buxton being one of them too. So I think some people are excited about Andrelton coming in, a little bit more of a contact hitter to split up some of those big bombers, but he's there to play shortstop. And if they can get a league average bat out of him too, I think they'd be really happy with that. But he's, I think they're just expecting phenomenal defense at short, and for him to stay healthy too. He had an ankle problem last year, and for those two, health is huge, and for the whole roster, health is huge with Donaldson too. And Kepler's had his injuries over the years, but Simmons and Buxton, I mean, this has a chance to be a really special defense up the middle if they can stay healthy.
So we know you guys can hit bombs. Can you stop people from hitting bombs now? So the staff looks like a interesting group of guys here, led by, we know Barros is the ace. We know that already, but Pineda, Hap, I mean, what are your thoughts about them? And then Maeda kind of gives you a little change up there from people who throw hard.
Yeah. Kenta last year, that trade for the Twins was fantastic for Maeda. Bruce Zargraro was arguably their top pitching prospect. They sent him to LA, and I'm sure you're aware of that deal being in the NL West. Yes, but Kenta came over and was just fantastic for them last year. Finished second for the Cy Young Award to Shane Bieber, and I think a part of that was that they only faced Central teams, and Central offenses were so bad last year. But he made changes that I think the Twins saw in him before they traded for him, is throw more sliders against lefties. That splitter's already nasty. Barrios, as you mentioned, like for the last 2-3 years, I think Twins fans have been waiting for him to take that next step and become like a top 10 pitcher in the American League. And I'd say right now he's a really solid back end number one, solid number two. And it's just maybe he'll never take that next step. He's got 2 years under team control. Right now, he's a really good pitcher. You know, he's a borderline all-star. He's a back-to-back all-star in 18 and 19. But him taking that next step would take this team to the next level. And then down the staff, like Michael Pineda, again, he's another guy you need to stay healthy, but he has been really good for the Twins. They have a great record in games that he's pitched. Just been really solid for them since he's come over. I thought that was a good signing, a 2-year deal. He was rehabbing in year one, and then in year two came up and pitched really well for them in the second half of 2019 before that suspension. They have depth. Like that's what they're built on, 7 or 8 starters who they feel like are league average. And you could say like they don't have the front line guys that you need to win a multiple postseason series. And that's certainly a criticism. And I've said, like, I hope at the deadline they'll go out and find a team who's struggling maybe and trade for a starting pitcher. But I feel good about the staff, especially in this division. I still think the Royals are a couple years away. I think the Tigers are many years away, or, if their starting pitching develops. But offensively, I think they're a handful of years away. So I feel good about the staff, I think, and I'm just hoping the offense can bounce back. But yeah, the rotation is deep enough where I think they'll be able to make up all those innings. Because I think, too, thinking about the Giants, how are they going to make up all these innings from last year? Guys who only threw 50, 60, now they're getting ramped up to 180, 200. I think is going to be the biggest challenge, certainly for teams this year.
No question about it. I think I'm really more worried about the 2022 Giants because I think that's when they're going to spend money, because that's when
Yep.
every if you had a Mount Rushmore of current shortstops, all of them are free agents next year, like every single one of them. So,
Yep.
I think it'd be interesting to see what the Giants do. I think they'll definitely spend money, be players next year, because they're not gonna. That's a big market team. They're not gonna sit and watch for too much longer. So as far as the bullpen goes, what are your feelings about that? You feel solid there, closer, setup, and everything like that?
Yeah, I think if there's one point of contention for this team is people are worried about the bullpen. Taylor Rogers struggled last year. He was really good in 2019. Alex Colomé came over from the White Sox. Was so good for them for 2 years, and they traded Omar Narvaez for him to Seattle, and he's just been so good the last 2 years. But I think the reason he only signed for $6.5 million is his underlying stats show that he might regress a little bit. But that's a good platoon, righty lefty in the back end of pitching platoon in the back end of that bullpen. And they've just had they've been able to develop guys. Tyler Duffy, they developed into a really solid reliever and perhaps their best reliever after he was barely on the Twins 2 years ago. And they have other guys. Jorge Alcala throws 99, 100. He's up there. And there's just so many guys like that these days. They have guys in their system who are going to come up and throw hard. So I feel like this will be a top 5 to 7 group in the American League. I think it's not going to be a disaster. I don't know if it'll be a top 3 group. The White Sox and the Yankees have some good pens coming in. The Twins don't have the firepower like that, but they've gotten it done the last 2 years. They have more wins than anyone in the American League the last 2 years in the regular season. And I think a big part of that has been the development of the bullpen and how they've been able to close out games and really help out the starters. So they've given us the benefit of the doubt that I think they know how to handle a bullpen, this front office. And until we see otherwise, I feel solid about it. The main thing is just those top arms in the starting staff and in the bullpen. Perhaps they could use one more like top of the line, but I guess everyone could use one more top of the line, but you can make that argument maybe a little bit more for the Twins.
So the last question, who is going to be the breakout star in 2021 and who's going to be the guy who you would be shocked would be on the next year's roster?
I think a breakout star, it's hard on the current roster because we've seen what some of these guys can do. We talked about Buxton. We've seen what he can do in large stints, how good he can be. But I would say Buxton, if he can play 140, 150 games, I think you're going to see a 6, 7, perhaps 8 win player, even just given how good he is in center field and how he can change games. There's this ridiculous stat in the last 2 years. When Buxton plays, the Twins win like 65, 70% of their games. When he doesn't play, they're like a 500 team. He makes that big of a difference for them. From just a wins above replacement standpoint, I think Buxton's their breakout star. Like, I think he'll if he can put it together and stay on the field, and it's always the if with him, has been since the beginning of his career, I think that would be huge, and he's going to be their clear-cut star. Guy I would be shocked is on the roster next year. Oh man, I would say Jay Happ, and I would say Jay Happ, their offseason signing for $8 million, because I'm not entirely confident that, I think in 2019 when he struggled, he was better in 2020, but I'm just not entirely confident that he can be in a winning rotation right now. I think he's a good back end starter, but a 1 year deal for $8 million. I would be shocked if they brought him back. Is that what you meant by that question? Like,
yes.
Yeah. I would say Hap. I think he's got a short leash in this rotation, and I think he should. I think there's other guys that are chopping at the bit. Randy Dobnak should be getting starts. So I think I would say Hap. But Buxton, man, like, we got to keep him on the field. We got to find a way to keep him out there.
All right, listen, Nash Walker, Locked On Twins podcast. Make sure you check that out. Good Central stuff, and also good Twin stuff. And I could ask you one football question.
Yes.
With the 14th pick of the 2021 draft, the Minnesota Vikings take.
We're gonna take. Is it Elijah Vera Tucker?
Okay. Yes, I know. Lineman. SC, fight on. I know.
SC. They need an O lineman, Dwayne, and it's not fun to draft a lineman in the first round.
It is. For me, it is because I like that pick because I'm a Raider fan, but like I like the pick because the bust factor is so much. It's so much. Like I remember when the Raiders were going to draft, it was the Raiders drafting Derwin James or Colton Miller. And while Derwin James' high point is better than Colton Miller, Derwin James can't stay on the field.
Right.
And so I mean, like, so I don't know, but yeah.
I think they're taking a lineman. Also, I've seen, is it Kwity Paye?
Yes.
I've seen an end they could potentially go after. The Vikings had a bottom 3 defense in franchise history last year. I actually think they gave up the most points in franchise history, and they went out and got Pat Pete and some other guys. But I think they need to be better defensively. But that line is also in trouble. So I'll say number 1 is Vera Tucker, your guy, SC. California guy, and then I'll say Paye for the second.
And last one I think is was Yannick Ngakoue just didn't fit the system last year?
Yeah, I mean I think I don't know if I don't think he fit in very well. I think it was so hard for them losing Daniil. That defense was hard to watch. And I'm hoping he's back. But Ngakoue, I think when he left the Vikes, I want to say he led the team in sacks until like week 14, but he'd only played a couple weeks with them.
He does get pressure on the quarterback. Though.
He does.
He does. He knows how to
do it. I think that's something that Rick Spielman, the GM, would want back. That entire transaction of, I think they traded a second rounder and then got a third rounder back for him or something like that. So, but I don't think he fit in super well. That defense was just a mess last year. And when he left, it just kind of, it got even worse.
So, all right. Listen, Nash, thanks you very much. Little baseball, little football. Take care, man.
Yeah, you too, brother. Thanks.
No problem.